When it comes to teaching homeschooling lessons, activities, one really cool activity that y'all can use for your students is movies. That's right, using film to showcase different subjects, topics, skills, whatever you want. I personally love using film to illustrate those key points. You can also use movies when it comes to learning practical skills, as we've been focusing on for a long time on this channel. With all the recent stuff happening with the FBI, with whistleblowers, with people in seats of power resigning at really opportune times, with all that stuff taking place, this reminds me of a film, classic movie I used to watch as a kid, called Clear and Present Danger. Clear and Present Danger involves this analyst doing his job, but he stumbles upon something. He finds out that the executive branch in this movie has been doing some pretty shady things with drug operations in Colombia. And so he starts asking questions. He starts digging. And Jack Ryan finds out, hey, the executive branch of my government has been doing some pretty shady things. And I'm not going to tolerate that. Now, of course, throughout the whole film, he is attacked from all sides of the aisle. He's persecuted. At the very end of the film, he goes before Congress and testifies as a whistleblower. It's a wonderful film because it teaches the students the valuable lesson of integrity, doing the right thing when everyone is looking.
Dude, that's quick. How'd you get out of your car and into your room so fast? You are wearing the same shirt, right? It looks like we're wearing the same.
I take my job very seriously, Michael. Okay.
Well, you're encroaching into my territory this morning.
Step it up, Michael. Step it up.
About entertainment, about film. I mean, that's the business I work in. So, give me the background on that, because I have a lot, obviously, I want to say. That, when did you record that video?
I actually recorded it yesterday.
And you haven't changed? You're still wearing the same blue shirt?
Well, I have changed. I have another blue shirt. Yeah, this is my Star Wars blue shirt. And I have a school blue shirt. I have a lot of blue shirts.
Well, I happen to be wearing blue today as well.
Perfect.
Okay. Producer Gino's going back and forth, sent an email. What's our topic? What's our topic going to be? And I love that this, I had no influence over the topic today. I did not say, let's do this. It was you. It was, and you are hitting home with me, because this, to me, is actually one of the most important things. Teaching truth. Mm-hmm. How are you going to teach truth to people? How are you going to get this generation to learn what's really going on in the world, right? How are you going to, when people are so fixated on these tiny little screens, right? Just tiny little screens all the time, right? Yeah. This is it, right? This is the future. Right. Or actually it's more like this. It's this, right? I always go like this, because in cinema, your eyes are horizontal, right? Mm-hmm. Your eyes are horizontal. They're not vertical, right? Your eyes aren't vertical. Right. You see in a landscape, but for some reason there are, now the vertical video has become trendy, and it drives me nuts. and people say, you're an old geezer, get with the times. I'm like, no. Look, the screen I'm looking at is horizontal right now. And when you film, when you watch the most epic projects or cinema, it's horizontal, right? The future is not vertical video. Anyway, that's my brief rant. All right, so tell me, first let's talk about Clear and Present Danger, and then we'll talk about teaching through film in general. Right. So this is the second time in just a couple of days that movie has popped up in something that I've been reading or watching or listening to.
Oh, cool.
And so now I have to go rent that movie. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it
Yeah.
before. But I'm old school. We still do DVD player here at home, and I'm going to go to our video store and rent it and watch it because I remember enjoying it. I had one problem with it, though. Can you guess what my one problem with that movie, Clear and Present Danger, was?
Is it the actor?
Recasting.
The casting? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Why? Because.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What am I talking about? No, the first movie. Wait, I might be getting this wrong. It was Hunt for Red October.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Jack Ryan series, it would be Sum of All Fears, Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and then Clear and Present Danger. Because Sum of All Fears, he's still just a kid. Right?
So, but did Sum of All Fears come out before Hunt for Red October?
Well,
or was it a prequel?
If we're talking about when the films were released, that's a little different, right? Patriot Games came out first, then Clear and Present Danger, then Hunt for Red October. Because Hunt for Red October had Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Maybe it's reversed.
Sequence.
I don't know, but
I think
they're all about Jack Ryan.
I think Hunt for October was first, and it had Alec Baldwin, but it was going to be Harrison Ford.
Oh, right, because James Earl Jones. That's right. James Earl Jones was in Hunt for. That's right.
Yeah,
and he dies in Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah, right. So I think it was originally written for Harrison Ford, but Alec Baldwin took it. I didn't know any of this when I watched it, and I enjoyed it. And then Harrison Ford came on. I guess after Hunt for Red October was a success, he's like, "Yeah, I'll take that role." And then they recast. Anyway, that's not really a problem. I've just got to rewatch the movie to remember the details because it felt real, right? It felt like, oh, these are scenarios that could actually be happening.
Right.
And so now I want to watch it and say, wow, I've learned a lot about our current government. And this is almost like prophetic.
Yeah.
Right. The kind of stuff that the plot of Clear and Present Danger is. It's like, wait a minute. Were they writing about things that were actually happening? Because the writer, who's the author? Do you know?
Oh, Tom Clancy wrote the book.
Yeah. So some of these guys, Clancy, really do their homework. Another guy I like is Michael Crichton.
Yeah.
That guy becomes an expert in whatever the subject matter is before he writes the book. He literally does such in-depth research. When you read those books, you're getting an education.
What's really cool. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, what's really cool about Tom Clancy is this actually happened. In a lot of his books, he does so much research that people from the government actually do reach out to him and say, hey, how do you know these things? Because it's so accurate, so technically accurate. And granted, some of his books are like reading a technical manual, but that just goes to show how accurate his work is when it comes to the real thing.
Well, you realize what we're saying here, we're using kind of archaic phraseology. We're using a word that people don't really use anymore.
Well, accurate?
No, read books.
Oh yeah, read books. Yeah.
Wait, what does that mean? What does it mean to read a book? What exactly is a book? And I think that the point that you're making, or that our topic emphasizes, because we are in, my camera gets out of focus, because we're in a new era of technology, and the quickest way that information is disseminated is not, flipping pages in a book. It's, let me Google it, right? Let me Google it or whatever. Right. And how are people going to determine what is accurate, what is true? And you can read anything on the internet, and if you only read one side of a story, you're just going to automatically assume that was the storyline. Whereas if there's always more than one side of a story. There's at least two sides of every story, and often more than that. But how are we going to get the next generation to learn the important facts of history? Like, history, what? Why do we need to, first of all, why do we need to learn history?
To learn practical skills for the present.
Yeah, you just said that at the tip of your tongue, rattling it off. To learn practical skills, and what else? I mean, expand upon that. Why is history important?
The only way you can not repeat the past is if you learn the practical skills needed to do that. If you look at the past and focus on practical skills like the value of integrity, or the ability to see other perspectives, or the ability to back up what you're saying, those skills can all be learned by looking at different events in the past. The only way you can prevent modern day problems is if you know that, is if you know those skills. Now, you can learn those skills other ways too, but if you learn it through history, it gives you that solid proof, that evidence that this clearly does or does not work. Marxism clearly does not work because it has happened again and again and again and has failed every single time.
Wait, they just haven't done it right.
Oh, right. Oh, my apologies. Yeah, you're absolutely
It's
right.
just never been properly implemented, right?
If anyone close to you says that, if you know anyone who's a devout Marxist who truly believes, well, if I was in charge, I would do it right, get away from them as soon as possible.
It's
because
delusion,
that's exactly
right?
what they said back then.
Right? It's like, well, they just never did it correctly. I'm like, it can't possibly be done correctly. There is no right. The whole paradigm completely ignores something essential in human nature. Power corrupts, right? Power corrupts. Like that whole ideology is like everybody should be the same and have the same thing. Yeah, but who's going to enforce the sameness, right? There's going to be somebody enforcing sameness, and they won't be the same as you.
Exactly.
Right? That's the thing that's left out of that equation. Everybody should be equal and have equal outcomes. And it's like, how is that even possible? God didn't make it that way, right? Like, everybody is different, and you cannot I mean, we're equal in our value. And that's what equality versus equity is. We're not going to go in that direction. I want to stay on the idea of educating the coming generations. And I work in an industry that is woefully has failed woefully. We have the power at our fingertips to make the most incredible cinematic experiences, right? We have that power. You go into a movie, the right kind of movie, the movies that are made correctly. When you go in there and the lights go down and the light, that little box in front of you comes up, you're supposed to forget you exist.
It's an
essentially
escape.
You are supposed to experience through the protagonist, right? You are supposed to essentially become the protagonist and hope to survive, right? You want to be the protagonist. You're going to go through struggles, and you're going to get to the point where everything seems to be failing and coming against you, and then there's going to be this overcoming, and you're going to triumph, right? That is there are two genres of film. There's comedy and tragedy, and comedy is not ha-ha, it means success. Basically, comedy is when the protagonist succeeds, and tragedy is when the protagonist fails, and that's it. Those are the two genres of cinema, comedy and tragedy. And tragedies are like this existentialist nonsense. Well, there are tragedies that are good lessons, but it's the comedies that are the most successful. And again, I'm not talking about sitcoms, ha-ha comedies. I'm talking about the stories where the protagonist succeeds. Now, Hollywood has that power at their fingertips to draw people in and to shape them. I've gone to movies that have shaped me and influenced me. And I mean, I've come out of movies going, wow, if I didn't have a solid foundation in Jesus Christ, that movie would have influenced my belief system right there. Right. And so that is the responsibility that filmmakers have.
Right.
Well, I think, and this is literally what I'm about. I'm just going to put this out there, that my goal in life here, as it's dawning, right? I'm past the midpoint, I'd say, but I have a project that I'm working on. In fact, I just put up a website. Go to probably the easiest way, projectjustice.info. Just put that out there, projectjustice.info, and you'll see a brand new website I put up 2 days ago, and it's just the beginning of, well, it's a thing I've been working on, but you'll at least get a glimpse of what I'm working on. But by being involved in this project, it's opened my eyes to the responsibility that Hollywood and filmmakers have to educate the upcoming generations. And I don't mean doing documentaries, because nobody watches documentaries. And there it is, projectjustice.info.
Interesting.
And you can also find it by going to Silgaman.com or Silgamantelerian.com. But
I'm on it right now. It's
those
actually pretty cool.
that's a foreign name.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're it's under construction, but it's a nice, sleek, straight to the point. And anybody out there, check it out. But this is a compelling, true story that by telling this one story, it will open up anybody who watches it, will now understand 20th century history, right? Where Hitler got his ideas, right? People don't know, we just know Hitler was bad. He did something evil. And then we move on to our TikTok, right? Like we just know that, and then don't be like him, but nobody knows what it means not to be like him. But this single story is literally where he got his ideas, and it's a compelling, true narrative that I have done so much research with historians and traveling into archives to corroborate the events of the story, that when people ultimately see it, when it's ultimately made, they'll be like, wow, that is a really, really good writing and really, really creative. But the fact is, I've gotten as close as possible to as many of the details of history as possible. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to be creative. I just have to recreate what actually happened in history. And once you walk out, you will have a college level education in history, and your personal life will be changed. You will actually educate other people, right? You'll be like, you should see this movie. It was incredible. And it was true, right? So we have to appeal to people's aesthetics as the Trojan horse, right? The aesthetics of filmmaking is like the Trojan horse, and the truth of history, the important lessons are hidden within it. And I think that's where Hollywood has abdicated their responsibility. They just want to make money and entertain rather than use that power in a responsible way and make money and entertain, right? Making money and entertain isn't evil. It's just that they're leaving out something critical. There's my rambling spiel.
But to bring it back full circle, back to the film Clear and Present Danger, as we're seeing right now, you have so many people coming out of the woodwork who are using their own integrity to do what they think is right, to go before the elected officials who represent the people and say, hey, this is going on. It's not good. I need to do something. I need to pull a Project Veritas, be brave, do something. I need to do something. And what we're seeing is happening in real time. When these people in these high positions conveniently retire, that seems awfully fishy.
Yeah.
When the head person of the DOJ chooses not to make any charges until after the November election, it's like, that's weird. Why? Okay. But then you see films like Clear and Present Danger where you have a character named Jack Ryan who's a nobody. He's not a big person in the CIA. He's an analyst. He's a low-level analyst. And he stumbles upon something. He does research. He keeps digging, and he finds out, hey, we're doing things that are not good. And I cannot uphold my oath to the Constitution. And see, that's another thing. Anytime that you work in any government agency like that, you do take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Well, here's the thing. If you don't do that, you are violating the oath that you took. And then, of course, that goes back to where we're at today. Okay? You have a choice to make. It can be at the big level or the small level. But if you see that something happened, something that's going on is not right, You know it's not right. In your gut, you know it. You have a choice to make. You could just go with the flow, be like everyone else, okay, and just not get in trouble. Or you can actually use your integrity and do something about it. But here's the thing: integrity is not easy. It doesn't feel good. Real integrity hurts. It's painful because you will lose friends. You will have heartbreak. You will lose a lot of things. But that's the cost. That's the price. And that's why it's so rare to find real integrity, because no one wants to lose what they're comfortable with. And that's why these whistleblowers coming out, I don't know who they are, but they're the people we should be celebrating. They're the ones who are risking everything because they know that people in power are corrupt and they are doing horrible things. And that's why our government is the way it is. You have unelected officials in charge of these agencies who have a lot of power. But that's why we have a president that is elected. That's why you have people in Congress who are elected. And that's why you have the Supreme Court. And don't forget state sovereignty, state governments who are elected. The point is, there's more people who are elected than there are those who are appointed.
Yeah. Well, they're supposed to be. They've been trying to expand that fourth estate, or what is the administrative state, right? The unelected branch of government, the fourth branch of government, the unelected. It's been expanding and expanding and expanding. But where do I go? I have so many directions to go. I'm going to go in two directions. So I'll start with one. Okay. The path of least resistance does not lead to the top of a mountain. Right? The path of least resistance that you're talking about, those who just kind of duck their heads and take their paycheck and try not to get involved and ignore the nonsense. When you take an oath, the Bible cautions, like, be very careful when you take an oath. When you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, you better know what you're talking about, right? You better know what that means. And the path of least resistance is the path to devastation and destruction, right? You have every person out there that is considered great and has done something great fought against the currents, right? It's like going against the currents. It's the path of least resistance is people giving up and going with the flow and disappearing in time. It's where greatness is those who navigate to the top of the mountain. And those are all metaphors that we all understand. Now, getting to the current events, and I think this is part of what is really those who are, I would say, on our, in our paradigm, in our, those who are really paying attention to both sides, and the narrative of this side versus the narrative of that side, compare and contrast, and like what makes the most sense and what seems to comport with everything else I know, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, okay, our eyes are open and the sources that we rely upon have been proven, right? You have, it's not, well, how do you know who to believe? It's like, well, there are track records and things that become the consensus. Whoever was talking about that ahead of time, that's the person you should listen to.
Those you do your research, you'll know.
You do your research, right? Exactly. And so what we're living through, those of us who are politically minded and watching the culture and watching politics, it is like watching a riveting movie. It's like, this is really going on at the top levels of the world leaders, like this kind of corruption. And our president is really up there calling half of the country like evil and enemies and to be resisted. And it's like, wait a minute, that's a narrative that's never happened. You've never had a president of the United States say the things that our president just said last night. Never, ever, right? Crossing lines. And it is like,
with a very Sith-like red background. You know that?
Yeah, I was going to mention
very
red.
Snow Emperor Palpatine type background.
It's like, are they not aware of what they look like? Right? There's this mirror, like right in front of him that he can't see. Right? There's a mirror it's all the evil that he's saying about everybody else. It's a projection. Right? That's the term. It's projection.
Yeah. Red was not a good color.
All you have to do is change the names of the characters, right? You've seen this before. Like if it's Donald Trump Jr. laptop, right? If you say we discovered Donald Trump Jr.'s laptop, and man, what it said, the big guy referred to Donald Trump, and he was taking 10% from China. It's like, what? That, like, if you just change the names, it makes
It'd
it's
be
like,
top
oh,
news.
it'd be top news. It would be like they'd be running with it 24/7.
Yeah.
Donald Trump Jr.'s laptop was discovered, and he
Oh my
was
gosh.
in a drug-induced coma or whatever. Right? He dropped
The
it off.
walls are
He didn't know
closing
where
in.
he dropped it. And so, right, the walls are closing, and so that's what is addictive on our side about what's going. I mean, there's the addiction on both sides, but it's whatever narrative you're consuming, and so when I watch, especially when in 2016 when they started accusing Donald Trump of colluding with foreign powers, right? Colluding with foreign powers is like, oh, okay, so they're colluding with foreign powers. It was literally Hillary Clinton that sold uranium, right? That approved the sale of United States uranium to the Russians, right? United States uranium. Wait a minute, uranium. That's fissile material for nuclear, et cetera, et cetera. And why would we sell it to Russia if they're our big enemy? And then she has to cover her tracks and come up with a story and say, oh, no, it wasn't me colluding with Russia. It was this guy over here. Since Russia's bad, we'll say it's him. And it's like they can't come up with an original story or lie. They come up with the truth and just switch the names of the characters. They look at what they are doing and say, oh, this is bad. This is perceived as bad. Let's just say he's doing it. And it's like they can't be creative. They just come up with, anyway. Go ahead.
Well, this is the great irony, and this is something I always come back to. Before President Trump became the president, the world loved him. Everybody loved him.
He was in every like every rapper put him in one of their songs. Like, no, I want to be like Trump.
Loved him. Everyone looked up to him.
No.
But the moment he did the unthinkable and actually get elected by the people, all of a sudden he became the world's, well, I wouldn't say the world, but I would say our nation's number one enemy. That's weird. And my take on all that is because he became the enemy because he wasn't a politician. He was a businessman who knows how to get the job done. He may not always be the nicest guy, but from my experience, I would much rather have a jerk who knows what he's doing than a nice guy who's going to stab me in the back.
Yes, you have a nice gentleman that speaks gently and softly, but every word that comes out of his mouth is a scripted, dangerous lie, right? But he's kind and he's speaking softly and gently, and he's a friendly-looking old man, just looks like a grandfather. Yet he's Emperor Palpatine, right? He's Emperor Palpatine, and then you have a guy that blasts and says what he truly believes and puts it on Twitter in an instant, and that's never happened. And everybody's like, how can this be our president? And it's
He's
like,
so mean.
And then those foreign powers that want to destroy us look at that president and go, uh-oh, we better be careful, right? You want somebody that's strong and firm and knows how to cut the fat out of the business, right? If you're a businessman, you want your company to be streamlined and to function. And he gets in there and he's like, whoa, this company, the metaphor of America, is so bogged down with such bureaucracy. No wonder we are collapsing, and no wonder we are suffering. And well, let's try and clean this up and make the hard decisions, such as you're fired. So we'll see what happens. Time is running out. You got. I don't mean time is running out in the existential sense. I mean, Ben, we have less than a minute left. I'm going to let you wrap this up.
All right, Patriots. Here's the thing. There's going to be hard days ahead. That will always happen. What will help you get through those hard days is learning what truly matters and fight for what truly matters. And things that don't matter, let go. Let go, and then give God the control.
It's good preaching. All right, Ben, we'll see you here next week. And everybody, we go to Bible every morning. I do Bible every morning. So get closer to God and then Sweet Home Maricopa. But go to that website, projectjustice.info. That will expand. I'll be adding to that. So Soghomon Tehlirian, hero of heroes. All right. I'll see you next week.
Take care, Patriots.